Hi there, welcome to the Halftime Huddle. It's Mark Webb here from AGame Masterminds. If you've stumbled across this by accident, welcome. If you come here regularly, again, welcome. But for those people who don't know me or don't know where we are and you're stumbling around, then this is the Halftime Huddle. There's a stream every Wednesday, and we generally come in the middle of the week, half time, hence the name, to give yourself a little bit of a chance to take a breath, to spend a bit of time midweek, because often we have some great intentions at the beginning of the week, and come Wednesday, hump day, we get all over the place. So this is a chance to take a breath, take those little orange segments you get halftime a football game to have a little bit of a juice and reconfigure and go. And recently we've been trying to get some more guests to come along. And I have I've shrunk myself. That is good. See, technically. Janine and I were talking about Janine. We're talking about a wonderful thing about eCam, and now I've gone and screwed it all up. So here we go. Let's go back again. Ignore me. We'll go back at the moment. Basically, I've given you a little bit of hint who's coming. It's Janine Coombes. Janine Coombes helps coach-shaped people, and we'll obviously talk a little bit about what she means about coach-shaped people, which is a lovely phrase, which I do use in anger. So thank you, Janine. And we'll find out all about Janine without further ado. Hello, Janine.
No, you're making me wonder now. Why in anger?
Oh, very good question. In anger, very angry because I hate coaching. No, I don't hate coaching people at all. It's not in anger. It's in. I just use it a lot. I nick it. I'm a very good one. There's a book, Aaron Klug or Clutch or something, talking about to steal like an artist.
Oh, yes.
So I'm always, but I do attribute you to, so your ears will be burning whenever I say that I talk about coach-shaped people, because I love the phrase, and I'm sure we'll talk about it as we go along. But before we get to that stage, I might start at the beginning, or probably before the beginning, because I'm always intrigued, and this is one of the most interesting parts about the conversations we have in some of these conversations we've had so far. Even people I've known for a long time, when they tell me their origin story, which is where we're going to, then I think, oh, I've never heard that before. You never told to me that before. What I'd love to know, and for those people who don't know who you are, a little bit about your origin story, where you started, why you're doing what you're doing. And for me as a nerd, was it the radioactive spider that bit you, or was it a gamma bomb that blew up, and whatever? Why you started what you started. So, Janine, what's your origin story?
Wow, gosh, I wish there was more interesting, something supernatural that I could share with you. But I think my story is quite similar to a lot of people who've started businesses out there. My background is corporate. I was in marketing departments of big corporates, decided to hammer notice in when I had my kids. I was intending to go back, but I had my boy, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to do the long commute, and I don't think I love my job enough to figure out the childcare and all this. And so I thought, quit that, and I'll see how I go, and I'll see what I want to do with my life, which is a big privilege. It's a really big privilege to have had that. And my husband's business was just at that tipping point that allowed me to quit, and decided to set up my own business. And I knew I wanted to do stuff with marketing because I could see friends setting up their own businesses, and the marketing just didn't come naturally to them. And I was like, obviously you should do this, that, and the other. And they weren't getting it. And I thought, I'll set up my own business. And at least the marketing will be easy because I'm a marketing expert and I'm trained and I've got all this experience. When in fact, that's complete nonsense, because doing your own marketing is hideous for the most part. I think people for who marketing and sales comes naturally are weird. I think they're an anomaly. So through that process of trying to work out what I was selling, who I was helping, I realized that one of the biggest gaps in a lot of small business owners' strategies was that fundamental piece of how do I position what I do that makes sense for the people I like to work with, and how do you position it so that it looks valuable and that people will pay good money for it. And that, once you've got that clear, everything else is easier. So it mimics my own journey and what I needed when I first set up my own business. And I've ended up working with coach-shaped people because I've had a hell of a lot of coaching the last 10 years. And it's completely changed my life. I absolutely love it. I love working with coaches. I think they tend to be switched on and take responsibility for their success. And they'll procrastinate. They're not impervious to mindset issues, but they'll know when it's happening, or it'll be very easy to call it out when it's happening. So I've ended up helping coach-shaped people primarily with their positioning and their messaging and their offer, so that once that's clear, I can then help them do the rest. Everything else is easier. The marketing, what content to create, where to show up, how much to charge, what sales techniques to use. That's easier once you've got the offer and the positioning.
Brilliant. You alluded to you like coaching, but coach-shaped people. I haven't clarified exactly the distinction between a coach and a coach-shaped person.
Yeah, so I say coach-shaped person because I do work with purist coaches who know they're coaches and they're comfortable with the label, and maybe they've got an accreditation or two. I love working with those people. But some of the people I work with, for instance, are leadership coaches who also do consultancy, or marketing coaches like me who do primarily consultancy, but part of what they do is coaching. It's not purist consultancy. It's not purist coaching. And there's a lot of grey area of the overlaps between mentorship, consultancy and coaching. And nobody really knows what label to use. And there's people pointing at other people saying you shouldn't call yourself a coach because you're not accredited, or you haven't got a good enough accreditation, or I prefer to use coach-shaped people. And it seems to resonate with the people I like working with.
Brilliant. And like I said, that's another reason why I quite like that phrase, because it's for the same reason, because there are so many people out there who have a coaching mindset, really, I suppose you could call it. And their mindset to help and support and encourage people rather than telling people. And so they need something to hang that kind of support and stuff on. And coach-shaped people is a lovely term. While in anger, I still do use it in anger. I love the term. It's brilliant. One thing I did notice around some of the things that I've seen around you is, and this is sliding into a little bit of what we also like to talk about in terms of superpowers and kryptonite, is I've noticed that on your bio, you talk about you doing some stand-up and singing as well. So how does that fit into to what you do now? Where did it start and how did that come about?
Yeah, I'm not doing a lot of it. I'll be honest. I did a stand-up course a couple of years ago, and it culminated in a showcase where you had to do a little set. So I have done stand-up on a stage, but I haven't ventured back on the stage and to do stand-up since. And I feel like I had lots of excuses, like comedy tends to happen late at night and I like to be in bed by 10. This sort of nonsense. So maybe I'll go back on. But yeah, I think what you've picked up there is when I was younger, I used to love singing, but I only ever sung on my own. And I loved comedy, but I didn't think that I could ever perform it, like all these self-limiting beliefs. And again, it's part of my journey that working with all these coaches, it's bolstered my confidence and I've refound who I am. And through doing the stand-up, it went from being something very scary to something, I can work this. I'm naturally working this into my content anyway. And the singing things, I'm not doing anything proactive at the moment singing. I used to have a band, and then I was in a choir, and we might set up with some local friends another choir of some description. But again, the barriers are down. And if I suddenly burst into song in some of my content, then I feel comfortable with that now, knowing that I'm not a professional singer and I really don't care whether people like it or not. It's my expression. So it's a badge of my own self-expression that I feel comfortable with now.
Indeed. And I've seen your videos. And like I said, there is a humor through most of the videos you do, trying to help and educate people in a softer way rather than dry and stuff. And it comes across very well. So I'd imagine, like I said, stand-up, something that seems to maybe not the sort of stand-up, like you say, the late night comedy shows and the stuff like that, but it is there. You can tell there's a certain amount of humor coming across, which is brilliant. So in terms of your origin story, I come across a lot of people for the same sort of reason. They're in corporate for some reason and they move out. How have you found spending the time from working in corporate, because there is a certain amount of support around people when they're in corporate that they don't always appreciate? Have you found moving from that kind of level to working on your own? Have you found that?
In a word, painful. I think I really didn't know what I was letting myself in for, run my own business. And I had people who seemed to set up quite quickly, and I don't know, are they more sensible than me? Are they more organized? I don't know. It took me ages to get my head around having to do everything myself, having to motivate myself, having to set my own goals, having to keep myself accountable, making all the decisions myself, having absolutely zero support whatsoever. Because my role in corporate, although it was in marketing, like I was the hub. So I didn't do, this is going to sound bad, I'm going to say I didn't do much of the work. I did work, but it was like project management. It was like, I'm going to get data from there. I'm going to insights from there. I'm going to brief that department to do the copy. I'm going to brief that department to do the design. I'm going to bring it all together. Then somebody else is going to implement it and come back with results. And then I'm going to look at the results, and then we're going to decide what to do next. It wasn't very creative at all. Yeah, it's been such a massive learning curve. I'm still on it. I think everybody's lying if they say they're not still on a learning curve, even after however many years, 8 years, 10 years. So it's been really painful. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. I like to open up any raw wounds in there and show them to everyone. But I think for what I'm circling back to a little bit is that's where you sit in my mind for a lot of businesses, smaller businesses, and what you alluded to is they come out with a business service or something they want to provide, and then they're stuck. How do I market it? And that's where you and people like you in terms of marketing can support. It's an experience you must have brought to the way you deal with that and help to other people. So is that something that you find more and more as you go through working with smaller businesses, that kind of level of help? Where do I go?
Yeah, it's really interesting. This is probably not answering your question, but I'm just going to say what I'm going to say anyway. The problems I've had myself and the struggles I've had myself, I think, make me a better coach shape person / consultant, because I do see some people who appear to have got successful really quickly, and so many of them appear to have struck on something that worked for them. Lucky them, they struck on something that actually works really well for them. And then they're telling everyone else, this is the result, this is the key, this is what you're missing. What are you doing that for? You should be here, you should be on LinkedIn, you should be on Pinterest, you should be doing 5-day challenges, you should be doing podcasts. There is no magical formula that you can buy or borrow from somebody else and it will work for you. Like it's just not, it doesn't work like that. And marketing has never worked like that. And that, I suppose, is something I re-remembered from my training, my marketing qualifications, is you look at, if you're advising somebody to do marketing, it's all about what that business wants to achieve, who are their ideal clients, what assets do they have, where are they now, where do they want to be. Like, everybody's so unique. That is what marketing has always been about, and that's my approach, and it marries really well with a coaching approach. Just, okay, you tell me what your personality is like, what you like doing, what you hate doing, and then your marketing should fit in line with that. You can't force yourself to do marketing in a way that doesn't suit you, because it won't work. It'll be horrible and you'll feel rubbish.
Absolutely. And everywhere I hear the word consistency is bandied around. And if it's something that's dreadfully painful for you to do, you're not going to build up the consistency.
No, I see there's a small proportion of the population that seem to be able to do something consistently that they don't like. But why would you, if you could do that, why would you choose to do that if it's something that you prefer to do that would work just as well? There's nothing that works better than other things. It's all, if it works best for you, do that.
Indeed. And like you say, I think half of the challenge I see when I see people doing that is they don't know that there's another way. They get stuck and they get hooked into that, like you alluded to at the beginning, that little magic secret weapon that these people are selling left and center because it's the one that worked for them. And they think, why isn't it not working for me? And like you said, people like yourself can give them alternatives. And that's where, like you said, the individual bespoke type conversation is where it comes from. But half the time, like I said, they don't know that there is another way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons I do work best with people who've been running a couple of years. And certainly if you're watch out what you're buying in the first couple of years if you're quite new. because anybody selling the success blueprint that is very prescriptive, just watch out for that. Some of them have to use that language to catch your attention. And actually what's in there is really good fundamentals, but a lot of them aren't.
Yeah, indeed. And another challenge I see is personality makes a difference, like you were saying. How you come across affects the sort of best way to come across, I would imagine.
Yeah. It's really tricky because using video, for example, I was very uncomfortable to begin with using video, and I'm glad I persevered and I love it now. Now, not everyone's going to find that. So it has to be a personal decision in the end, doesn't it? Because if you hate going on video, there has to be a tipping point of, is it worth it for you? Are you ever going to find it pleasant, or would you be better off having a podcast or just concentrating on blogging or doing something else?
So with that in mind, what do you find, and maybe what do you find is the biggest challenge you come across when you talk to new businesses that are struggling with their marketing? Is it what we've alluded to, or is there another big challenge that you think that if they can only get over that, then the next step is the easier one?
Yeah, I'm bound to say this because this is what I help people with, but the messaging is so key. The words that you use, the way that you're showing up, the confidence with which you describe the value that you're providing, it's absolutely key. And I make that part of the offer. So when I say I help people with offers or coaches with offers, the messaging is part of it. It's so fundamental and it's so tricky. And the annoying thing is it's a moving feast, and you're messaging 1 month and then 6 months, 7 months later, it might have moved on. It might not have done. So you just constantly got to keep an eye on it and dip in and reconnect with your ideal clients and maybe do a little bit of research. And I find it personally very difficult to nail on my own. I need other people to help me. You have to be extremely in tune with your ideal clients, like on a daily basis, to make sure your messaging is constantly right. But I feel like if your messaging is correct, it means that you've done a lot of other work. Random percentage, you're 80% of the way there, not based on any facts, just like a gut feel.
A gut feel. The 80-20 rule goes in everywhere, doesn't it? Yeah.
Beautiful. Let's say it.
80-20 rule, yeah. Once you do the 20% of work that involved in getting your message right, you're 80% there. There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you. Beautiful. Yeah.
But, I can well imagine, and although I would imagine that it's not 20% of the work to get the message, I would imagine it's a big piece of work, because I know for myself, it's the same challenge. And almost, as you say, almost every day, you think, maybe it's changed a little bit, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And we have a habit, or I have a habit, and I'm transmitting that onto other people as well, but I have a habit of second guessing, and I would imagine testing my message on myself rather than testing it on people itself, and then thinking, no, it's not working, when really the only person you've told is yourself. And do you find that a challenge as well?
Oh, yeah, it's really hard. And then you think, I'll stick something out on LinkedIn. What strapline do you prefer, A, B, or C? And then you get a bunch of non-ideal clients answering, and then you're no further forward. So the truth of the matter is, you can tinker on your own all you like and get feedback from experts and other people. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And as soon as you put it live with a buy button or a book a call now, then you'll know whether it's worked or not. Which is frustrating, because it'd be nice that if you had a nice test environment that you could test it. Will people buy this? Oh no, I need to change it. Okay, and now I can put it live without exposing myself to failure. But unfortunately, that part is part of the process. You've just got to put it out there, and if people don't buy, it just means that there's some changes to be made.
Do you? And the reason I'm saying this in some respects, because we're delivering this online in a virtual digital environment. We are extremely lucky as producers of digital content and digital products that they are so easy to change and modify, and you can do the kind of put it out there, see if it works, go back and change it, that you couldn't do, or you can't do as easy with a cup or a physical thing. Do you find that even with that, people find it difficult to put themselves out there, even though they know, or you can talk to them and encourage them that if it's not working, you can fix it in an instant?
Yeah, I think the fear of anyone seeing something and it's not quite right is very real. I feel like I'm okay. I'm not too much of a perfectionist anymore, but it's like one of the main reasons people procrastinate. Oh, what if I put this out here and I've made a typo, or people don't like it, or they'll judge me, or that wording. Sometimes I just want to scream at it because there's so many people posting, oh, I hate it when people use this phrase, or I hate it when people use this kind of format in this way. And you just people who tend towards the procrastination or perfectionism, they're going to see that and it's going to stop them posting, or it's going to make them titivate over one post 20 million times, and then they're just going to be stuck in this loop of, who am I going to offend? So post anything, someone's going to be offended. Like, you can guarantee it. You can absolutely guarantee it. They might not comment, but there'll be somebody tutting and rolling their eyes at what you've put in. I guarantee every single post. So like, that is definitely going to happen. You just got to do it and just not worry about people who tut and roll eyes.
Indeed. And I love the image now you've got in my head of someone that's sitting there tutting at everything I put on.
Yeah. The beautiful, when you're really embodying your tone of voice, if you feel like you're really representing yourself online, and then you almost want to prompt it. Then you're almost like, haha, I know some people are going to hate this. And then you really get into it. You deliberately use misspellings, or I wrote a post on LinkedIn about, it was a brilliant analogy, I have to say, but it involved poo. And I just thought, some people are going to hate this. This is awesome because they'll know that I'm not for them.
No, I love, and I must admit, I would imagine there are a fair amount of people who would find that intriguing, and yet there are those people who would shiver in there and scream and say, no, I can't put anything out that would offend anybody. But you're right, some people would love that. I just put something out just to see if I can raise a little bit of discussion with the secret tutters out there. Indeed, I love the idea. The poo word. That reminded me of a Graham Norton clip with the two guys from the latest film, It's a Pain or The Pain or something. Oh, life for me, I can't remember. I'm going to have to change this. Where one of them's married. It's Macaulay Culkin's brother. And he talked about, because he's got an English wife, he talked about the analogies, and he loved the word poo. So there you go.
I think I saw that clip, actually, yes.
And you're right, there are people out there who would squirm and huge tuts. Letters from to the editor because you've used a poo word, or a poo emoji even.
Yeah.
Indeed. With that in mind, and we've alluded to a little bit about the challenge we face when we're trying to do a lot of this on our own. One of the things this, as I said at the top of the recording or the video, this is here in the middle of the week. It's here to help those, for instance, we're sat in our room working on our own. We start the work with all good intentions, and trying to keep that momentum going through the week is a challenge when it's only you giving yourself permission to do this. We talked about the challenge you'd faced as well doing that, and the things you miss when you're not in a corporate environment somewhere, or an environment where there are other people around you helping you. So what is your favorite tool? Do you have any favorite tools? Or how do you keep yourself focused during the week? Because I keep that momentum going.
I don't use many tools as such. I do use the Pomodoro timer sometimes if I need to focus for a specific period of time. Actually, I more likely use it because I'm going to do some concerted work and I know that I've got a call in an hour, and I will just forget it if I don't have something pinging. And I have all notifications off on my laptop, so that won't ping either. So that's useful. But I think the stuff that helps me the most with productivity is having a realistic to-do list for the day. And I have so many habits. I have a morning routine. Once I've done everything and dropped the kids off and I've got my cup of tea and I get to my desk, I either do a little bit of journaling or write some affirmations out. And then I write at least three successes from the previous day. And it could be as small as I got all the washing done and hung them on the line. Like, it doesn't need to be big at all. And then at least three things that I'm grateful for, and that sort of sets the tone. I decided my 3 to-dos for the day. So just it goes in so that then my subconscious can work on it while I meditate for 10 minutes. Quite a performance. And then once I'm meditated, then I'm ready to go. It's just 10 minutes I use Calm app.
Yeah.
But the theory there is backed by neuroscience, because you program your mind with what you're going to do for the day, and then you do something meditative. So it could have been go for a walk or play some music for 10 minutes, but then your subconscious should be getting you ready to do those things, and then you can crack on. And I'm a big fan, and this goes back to doing stuff that suits your personality. I'm a big fan of doing something easy to start with. I know there's like the whole eat the frog, do the hard thing first. Actually, that puts me off. I prefer to do an easy thing first, a quick win, and just get the ball rolling. But yes, those are my top tips if you're like me. They might not work for you if you're not like me.
No, indeed. You're very right there. Very right to add that. I think one of the things that I like about this is creating a collection of different tools and tips and stuff like that people can use and dip in and see what suits them. Because one of the questions I was going to ask you is, how did you set upon your morning routine? Where did you pick the things to put into it, and why you do what you do in terms of your morning routine?
Yeah, it built up really slowly. So I was in a group program a few years ago, and there was a coach on there, and she was talking about affirmations and how useful they are, and just having some really personalized, motivational, linked in with your why maybe, or things that you have to remind yourself, and just having a few of those and writing them out each morning. So that's where it started. And then it was logical to add on some successes, because that's really good, because you're then programming your brain to be positive. And then I added on the grateful thing, because that's a similar neuroscience thing. So it built up slowly, very slowly. And I do change it out if it's not working. I love that idea of having pick and mix. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. It's good.
Yeah, no, and I like the way it's evolved as you've found different people who do things and give you little tips. And I would imagine, going back to the marketing analogy, that's probably a similar sort of route, is pick and mix.
Mix for the win.
What?
Definitely. Yeah, you're quite right. I like that. I'm going to think about that. The sort of analogy of building your own business through pick and mix.
Yep. Yeah.
That's really the only way to do it, isn't it? Because you just cannot plug and play somebody else's business model and approach. And
no, absolutely. And I think that's it. We alluded to that, and I will hunt up the book for those people who are listening to this on the on replay. I will hunt up the book and put it in the notes. This Steal Like an Artist book, but and that's another analogy, is, find the things that work for you by following the people who've been there before you. See which part of their routine and which part of their creative process works, what do you like about them, what you not like about them, and build your own routine and your own process and your own creativity around that, rather than just following by rote. It's useful at some stage sometime to have a process that you can follow and see where you're going, but go back and look at it, and then pick and mix. I love that. It's going to be pick and mix then.
If you're mentioning books, I briefly touched on Eat the Frog. A friend of mine, Vicky Quinn Fraser, wrote Don't Eat the Frog, and it's got ADHD friendly productivity advice in there, because that's one of her mantras, is don't eat the frog, start with something small and get yourself going. She was my book coach, says Janine, owning in the fact that my book's coming out soon.
No, I was going to ask you that, because we'd had a conversation, and I know you were on the cliff edge of getting it all done.
All the way.
So it's still there, still on the cliff edge, or have you taken that next step? Where are you up to now?
I'm so very nearly there. Hopefully by the time people are watching this, it could be available, it might not be available. But it's all been written, it's been typesetted, it's been proofread, the cover's done. I'm just feeding back on those bits, the last final little tweaks. And then I can get it uploaded and available for sale soon.
And what's the name of the book for those people who haven't been following?
The book is called The Easy Yes, No More Maybe, How to Land More of Your Ideal Coaching Clients Without Resorting to Sleazy Tactics.
Brilliant. I love that. Great name. And I would imagine, for instance, if you come along, we will again put some details in the chat and where they can find you. And I presume they can sign up for notifications for when this book is finally out, which is be brilliant.
Yes, easy-yes.com.
There you go. There you go. You beat me to it. That's brilliant. And I like the idea of don't eat the frog. There, I did come across an idea about, I think this comes from either a Navy SEAL or a Marine or something like that. He says, always make your bed first. When you get out of your bed, make your bed first because you start off again with a win.
Yes. And that just small, and that's a small win, isn't it? So that's a bit, don't eat the frog as well. It's just little small, and notice those small wins. There was some research that I can't remember who did it, but they did you'll have to Google it if you're interested, viewer. There was some research that they did about positivity, and they took a bunch of people who were depressed, and generally on a general day, they would rate themselves lower than the average populace on positivity and what have you. And they just got them to all around their house have Post-its, forcing them to like think of something positive. So just on the fridge door, on the bedroom door, on their toothbrush, they had to, every time they saw one, they had to promise that they would force themselves to think of something positive in their life or something good about themselves, a reason for being good, why it's good that you are you. And at the end of a month, they actually tracked more positive. They'd not only just stopped being depressed, but they were tracking for more positive outlook than the average populace. It's a muscle. It's a muscle, and you just get used to it. And the more you train your brain, I'm going to need you to think about the positive things from now on. It will spiral.
Indeed. And there's, I will try and hunt before this comes out where that report is. But the brain is very much a tool. We talked about tools before. Very much a tool that is only now we're starting to get real understanding of how sophisticated it is and what it can do for you. But ultimately, it's one of those things that sits around in the background, forever trying to make whatever you say or wherever you tell it to do it. For instance, the old red car, yellow car sort of thing. If you start talking about a red car, you'll see red cars everywhere. Not because there are more red cars around, it's because your brain is now attuned to looking for them, or your mind is now attuned to looking at them. So it's the same sort of thing. If you're thinking positive and you're looking for opportunities, you'll see opportunities. If you're thinking negative and you're looking for problems, you'll see problems.
Yeah.
Not because there are more of them around. It's just because that's the way you've tuned your brain.
That is the reticular activating system.
Absolutely.
And that's another reason I like working with coaches, because they know more about it than I do.
And it's simple. And it's a simple thing. Yeah. Here we go. Graph. It's nice that some people like to know the name of these things, and it's brilliant to know all in the background, but actually just whether you know why it works and doesn't work, actually just training your brain to look, knowing that your brain can see what you ask it to look for, and just ask it to look for things that help you rather than looking for things that hinder you, is one of the biggest, for me, one of the biggest tips I could say. Just ask your brain to look for good things rather than bad things, and it will find it for you.
I think that one of the biggest, that's been huge for me as well. And you're making me think of another thing that's been huge, is this feeling that for so much of my life, I thought that my thoughts were me. You were beholden to your thoughts. Your running commentary in your head is not you. And you can actually, with practice, stand back. That's partly what meditation is about, is standing back and then observing it. Oh, I appear to be upset about this thing. What's going on there? Is that a reasonable response? Or is it making me think of something else that's happened in my past, and actually I should calm down and journal on it, or come back to it, or sleep on it? It's a work in progress forever. But that's been huge for me as well.
Yeah, it sounds like and again, it sounds like something I saw recently where someone says one of the things that was a game changer for them was similar to that, in that it was naming your mind, naming your brain, naming your mind. And I think the lady who was doing it and probably you'll find it once I say this, as she was calling it Becky. And if the mind said something not very nice or not very productive, she would talk back to Becky and say, Becky, I'm sure that's not an appropriate way to start the day. Let's start the day in a better way. So separating yourself a little bit from the talk and the chatter that goes in your brain by naming it something different, I think for me, that sounds like a great little way of putting that separation in.
Yeah, I love that. It's the whole, it's bordering on the inner critic, isn't it? I have to say, I don't have a massive inner critic anymore. I used to, but I've heard people, or I have in the past, named my inner critic. So if I hear somebody being horrible to me, it's, oh, come on, Doris, calm down. I know you're trying to help me and you're trying to keep me safe, but this is not useful in this situation. But with practice, it does quieten. It does quieten.
No, yeah, like that. And we always, maybe I'll ask the people who are listening to this to put something in the comments. What would you name? What would be the name? And I don't want loads of Karens, because Karen is not Karen anymore. Karen's so cliche. But what would you name your inner critic? I love the name Doris. Although that's my grandmother's name, and she's a sweetie. But yeah,
right. I'll rename it then. I'll rename.
No, Doris is a great name. I love that name there. Yeah. But yeah, so it'd be interesting to know what people would name their inner critic if they could. Whether they would give it a nice name or like a very sort of pointy name. What would be a pointy name other than a Karen? We're not calling them Karens. Yeah, brilliant. Like I said, 2 tips already. For those people who listen to this, 2 tips already. And these will probably come up on the shorts, as I was mentioning. Definitely little clips for the favourite shorts. We've talked about, and this is one thing I want to say as well, we've talked a little bit about the fact that when you move away from corporate, which is part of your original origin journey, and working on yourself, you miss some of the support you get from having a team around you. Have you found a way to build that back into the way you work? How do you keep in touch? And do you have a supportive group around you to help you, give you that kind of level of comfort and support and teamwork?
Oh, it's interesting the way you worded that, because I was going to say no, but I've got some people I rely on to do stuff in my business I'm not great at or don't want to do. And I have created my own little, we don't call it this, but like a board, like that I can check in with. And we have monthly catch-ups, and on a rare occasion we'll meet up for a day and do a day's CEO day, and we'll give each other feedback. And we have weekly accountability sessions as well, which is not obligatory. It's just if you want to turn up and focus on something. And it's another chance for a natter. And we have a WhatsApp group, of course. And it's really good. I'm just really feeling the benefit of that, of having people who are doing similar things to you, that trying to achieve similar things, different businesses, and we just give each other feedback and have that support. And it's like colleagues, but in a way, because they're supportive and you can have the water cooler conversations, but they're not asking you for anything, which is brilliant.
No, brilliant. And how did that setup form up, and how did you find that? Where did you gather them to you from?
It was just a few people that I'd met at conferences to begin with. It was people who I'd met at conferences that I wanted to be friends with. And I thought, oh, they're very impressive. I'm going to be cheeky and see if we could do some sort of my mastermind peer-to-peer thing. And there's tips. And some people have left and some people have joined, but it's a really wonderful group of people. And it's one of these things that if somebody suggested I do that, I was like, oh, I wouldn't do that. But for some reason, something possessed me.
Brilliant. For me, that is a must and a given. And part of the rationale of what we do here, why I do what I do, is because the strength of having that kind of support network around you is unrealized, really, when most people are starting around. They don't think they need it. They don't think they're going to be a benefit, and they don't really know that it's something that's appropriate. Like you say, oftentimes people are put off at the beginning part of it, saying, can I ask people to be part of it, or can I find one, or can I be part of it? And they don't think that they can do. And there'll be these people saying, no, I'm too busy, I've got loads of other things to do. But you don't know until you ask, do you?
Yeah, the value of having someone curate the space is immense. And I know this isn't exactly what you're talking about, but the feeling that you haven't got an hour or a month to spend with some other people, it's, this isn't the right phrase, but false economy, because you're trying to save time, but in the long run, you're wasting loads of time because you haven't got space to process your thoughts or your decisions or get feedback or see how other people are doing it. So it's like a mentorship, consultancy, almost coaching relationship, but with a group of people. Be very powerful.
No, absolutely. And as you've mentioned earlier, you've been in contact and worked with lots of coaches, and coaching and is another great resource that the people should spend a bit more time on than they probably do and probably aren't aware of. But it's definitely a false economy when people get into that. And for marketing, I see them, and I'm sure you see the same when you deal with people, in that they go through a feast and famine sort of cycle where they're too busy to do business development while talking to their friends and their colleagues and their support groups, too busy to do marketing because they're just working all the time. And then the work dries up, and then they've got to start from scratch again. So it's very much an up and down. And I would imagine that a lot with people who are in the marketing, when they're busy, they don't necessarily feel they ought to be marketing because they're busy doing the work.
Yeah, that's the trick, is working it so that you are spending a few hours per week just being present, making things tick over, and so you're still moving that forwards. I call them squeaky bum months because it's so common. You're going great guns, and then all of a sudden it's, oh, hang on a minute, a few clients have come to the end of the contract at the same time. A scrabble. It's uncomfortable.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And we're talking about that word I mentioned as well, the consistency piece. If you've been inconsistent and you're trying to do it again, you've got to build up that momentum again, don't you?
Yes, yes. And I have felt that several times in my business. Consistency I find hard because I'm a exciting new ideas person. Woo! I don't want to do that again. I want to do something different and new, and it's got to be cutting edge, which is nonsense. The people who you can see have had the straightest line towards success, if you want to use that word. They've just turned up and being consistent, and their stuff is rarely really original or unusual. It's just good, solid content, and they just turn up and they do it day after day. So that's one of my business challenges, is how do I keep consistent? How do I keep that excitable part of my brain satisfied?
Intriguing. Yeah, that's intriguing because, like I said, one of the things I hear in talking to other people that are doing the same sort of thing is they forget sometimes that the people that they're marketing to or they're communicating to don't read all their stuff.
No.
They don't know all the stuff they do. So that post that you wrote 3 or 4 months ago that you repeat again, 9 times out of 10, very few people have read it the first time, and very few people will read it this time, and eventually it'll get some momentum. So it doesn't matter if you repeat it.
That's 100% correct. I've done that. I've responded to something and somebody said, oh, I repurposed this from a few months ago. And I was like, and actually sometimes I have read it or I've seen the video before, and you're in a different place when you receive it the second time. And sometimes you need to hear things you definitely need to hear things several times before they sink in, that's for sure. But sometimes you're in a different place 3 months down the line than you were there originally, and you need to hear it again, and it lands differently, and you absorb different elements of it. So it's essential that you repurpose, really. I do that. I'm much better at that now. If there's zero fear, if I repurpose a post, there's zero fear that I think, oh no, somebody might have seen it before. I'm like, yeah, good, they can read it again because it's good stuff.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, I do see that when people talking about them. It's the same post I wrote a month ago. And so if you're really that desperate and you want to change it, maybe change a little bit of it if you want.
Yeah.
But if not, doesn't matter. If you just repost it. Why do they think adverts in the TV work? They're the same advert all the time.
Yeah. Gosh. To harken back to the 80s and 90s, we were brainwashed. Like, I have jingles in my brain that will never go. And they come out in conversation to younger people, and they do not know what I'm talking about.
No, and we all know the Hovis advert, and we all know the various different things. Yeah, absolutely. Because we see it so often. Yes. No, indeed. And none of those advertisers say, oh my goodness, we have to change it up every time. They've only seen it twice, and etc. They've seen it millions of times.
That's a good analogy. That's such a good analogy. Can you imagine, like, then thinking, gosh, okay, we've run the ad once, we'll have to change it again because it's running again tomorrow, and we'll have to change it again because we're running it again the next day. That doesn't make any sense, does it?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, but yeah, the number of times people say, no, I can't post that again. I've posted it.
Mm.
I've even posted it, even though it was months ago or in a and even if they tried very hard, they'd never find it in your feed.
No. No.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So it is a hard sell in terms of the consistency piece. But like you say, if you make it easy by repeating the same thing you've done, that's easily consistent. Create a good advert and repeat it.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes back to messaging to an extent.
Oh,
What do your ideal clients, what are they waiting for you to say? Just nail those key messaging pillars and repeat them. And then I'm saying this to myself as much as anything, if you want to keep it exciting, you can change the format, change the delivery, but keep the message the same unless you think it's not working, unless you think it's not landing.
yes. And I think you probably know her as well, Amanda Webb. We talked to Amanda Webb about analytics. Definitely.
Yeah.
Make sure you recognize and understand what that is. And if getting confused with that, then we know a lady who can help.
That was amazing.
It's indeed. But it's easy. It's so easy to do that. We're coming to one of the parts that I quite enjoy. And you've alluded to a couple of books already. So I've got some other books. This is one of my favorite bits. And again, like I will be curating a collection of tips and tricks and productivity suggestions that people have made along the way. I will be collating a book list as well. If not for anybody else, for myself, because I like to collect books. And this is a twist. I'm blatantly back to the original Steal Like an Artist. Nicked this off Tim Ferriss, who has suggested that rather than what's your favorite book, because people who read books, their favorite book changes quite quickly and radically based on where they've read it and whether they're reading it at the moment or they've recently read it, etc. But a book that they recommend is something that takes a little bit more thought about. What is this book that you have recommended or gifted a lot to people? It doesn't have to necessarily be a marketing book. It could be anything.
Yeah, it is a marketing book.
That's right.
The one that I rave about so much that on occasion that I get accused of working for the company is The Content Fortress by Lindsay Cambridge and Martin Huntbatch. And it's just so useful, so clear. It's got a really solid analogy running through it. Like you build up your fortress around your business with content, but it follows through in the book. And of an analogy that makes sense, like you take it as far as you possibly can and it still makes sense. So I would recommend anybody doing content in their business, read that. It's amazing.
Brilliant. And you are not the first one to have mentioned that book. Which is
It's brilliant.
And to be really honest, it's on my list as well. And so I recommended it recently this week. So we would both put it on that one. It is a great book. Their ears will definitely be burning. Yeah, it's like I said, I think it's one of the things I liked about that book as well is it gives you permission. There are some things in there that it gives you permission to talk about. For instance, the bit that I liked about it is the sales and the pricing piece, because people tend to steer away from that in their content. And so I loved that it gave you permission to do that. And it also stepped back for someone. I also had a conversation with the same sort of thing as a coach, so that if a lot of these details are already out there, people know how much it costs, people know how to buy it, people know where to get it from. And when you're having a conversation one-to-one with a person, you don't need to go through that already. You can just talk about them, talk about their challenges and have the conversation rather than the sales pitch. This is how much it costs, blah, 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 because that's done. So I like the fact that they've given you permission to do that.
Yeah. I've learned so much from Lindsay and Martin. I used to be in their membership when they ran it a few years ago, and it's influenced my book. Like my book wouldn't exist without that book. And Lindsay's actually written one of the forwards. I've got two people written a forward for my book. She's one of them. I was like, Lindsay, you've got to write something, please.
Good. And again, that is another book that we need to keep an eye on as well. The Easy Yes. I must admit, I didn't remember the subtitle, which was good.
It's not exactly right, but it's near enough.
Okay, brilliant. And that is On the Brink.
Yes.
Yes, good. That you heard it here, and everybody else is listening.
Sale right now.
Good. There you go.
You'll know if you go to that link.
Possibly. It's like the Yoda thing. Try or try, and there's no try, just do. So it will be on sale.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's been lovely talking to you. We could, one of the things that I say a lot, and it can sound a bit trite sometimes because I say it to everyone, but I'd love to have you back on again because we only skirted the surface of the conversations we could have. I'm conscious again that there's loads we can get from here, and maybe we'll be back when the book is finally properly 100% here and it's been here for a while. We can come back and talk about the book.
Yeah.
And that's an open invitation to come back. So for those people who have found this, do please follow you. And where's the best place to start to follow you?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. No need to follow me. Connect. I won't bite. And if you want to just have a general nosy about my website, I'm at janinecoombes.co.uk.
Brilliant. And we'll put those in the comment along with the book recommendations, the book you recommended, plus some of the other books you mentioned, and some of the other things, your tools and stuff you mentioned as well. They'll be in the show notes eventually. It's been lovely to talk to you, and have a great week. And I will now say goodbye and speak to you soon.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much for everybody listening. I hope you've enjoyed the talk today as much as I've enjoyed it. We will be coming again to you in another week, and it will be great to share another lovely guest. So please do follow Janine. Check her out. She's open and easy to talk to. Like you say, her invitation to connect is a good invitation. So do connect, say hi, talk to her, messenger, say hello, and we'll speak to you soon. So in the meantime, have a great week, and may the second half of your week be the best half.